What if the Irish were allowed to join the Italian mafia? If the Irish were allowed to join the Italian mafia as full members, not just associates, the American underworld changes at the foundation. The mafia stops being only a Sicilian and Italian brotherhood and becomes something closer to a criminal empire built around neighborhoods, loyalty, money, and violence, instead of bloodline alone. The old rule about Italian ancestry was one of the walls that kept the mafia distinct. Take that wall down, and New York does not only get bigger crews, it gets a different kind of Cosa Nostra. The first version of this change would likely happen during Prohibition. The money is too large, the streets are too mixed, and the bootlegging business forces Italians, Irish, Jews, and others to work together anyway. Irish gangs already know the docks, police wards, saloons, unions, trucking routes, and political clubs. Italians bring family structure, Sicilian discipline, neighborhood command, and a stronger long-term racketeering model. Once Irish criminals are allowed to be made, the line between ally and family begins to disappear. At first, the old Sicilian bosses hate it. Men from the older world would see Irish membership as contamination. To them, the mafia is not only a business, it is oath blood, village memory, family name, and old country trust. But younger Americanized gangsters see the future differently. Lucky Luciano, Frank Costello, Meyer Lansky, Albert Anastasia, and men around that generation already think in national terms. They care about gambling, liquor, unions, casinos, politicians, judges, trucks, ports, and money moving cleanly. If an Irishman can earn, keep silent, and follow orders, the younger bosses would ask why he should remain outside the door. So the first Irish-made men would not be random street brawlers. They would be carefully chosen. Dock bosses, union muscle, political fixers, West Side operators, Hell's Kitchen men with police contacts, Brooklyn Irish gunmen who had already worked under Italian captains for years. They would not enter as equals right away. They would be watched harder, taxed harder, and tested longer. But once one Irish captain proves useful, more follow. New York's map changes fast. The waterfront becomes even more locked down. Irish control around docks and unions merges with Italian money and commission protection. The old Irish gangs no longer stay as separate partners who can be used and discarded. They become internal factions inside the families. A Gambino Irish crew in Red Hook, a Genovese Irish crew on the west side, a Lucchese or Lucchese Irish crew tied to trucking and garment routes, a Colombo Irish crew tied to bars, loans, and street collections. The families still have Italian bosses at the top early on, but the crews underneath look more mixed every decade. The biggest change is the Westies. In real history, Irish crews like the Westies remained outside the Italian mafia, sometimes allied, sometimes used, sometimes hunted, sometimes squeezed. In this timeline, the Westies do not stay fully independent. The smartest ones get absorbed. The wildest ones get killed or pushed out. Hell's Kitchen becomes a recognised mafia district instead of a semi-attached Irish kingdom. A man like Mickey Spillane might become a protected Irish captain under a New York family. A man like Jimmy Coonan might either rise inside the structure or get eliminated earlier for being too uncontrollable. This also changes Boston. Whitey Bulger's world becomes much more dangerous if Irish membership is allowed nationally. Instead of Irish crews operating beside Italian power, Boston could develop a hybrid mafia arrangement where Irish bosses hold official rank under a larger commission-approved system. The Patriarca family would not only partner with Irish criminals, it would absorb selected Irish leaders into the same command chain. That makes Boston harder for law enforcement to map and much harder for local crews to break away. Chicago changes too. The outfit was always more flexible than New York in many ways. It worked with non-Italians more openly, especially through politics, gambling, unions, and business fronts. If Irishmen can be made, Chicago becomes the model for the whole country. The outfit turns into a multi-ethnic corporation earlier, with Italian leadership, Irish political muscle, Jewish gambling minds, and street crews from different neighborhoods all locked into one official underworld structure. New York's old families would resist that model, then slowly copy parts of it once they see the money. But the weakness comes with the strength. The mafia's ethnic wall helped create secrecy. Families knew families, villages knew villages, marriages, cousins, old country ties, and neighbourhood pressure made betrayal harder in the early years. Once Irish members enter, the organisation gets larger but less sealed. More languages, more neighbourhoods, more drinking circles, more political clubs, more personal loyalties outside Italian family culture. The FBI later finds more cracks, not right away, but eventually. The commission also becomes harder to control. Irish captains would want real power after years of earning. They would not accept being used forever as muscle while Italian bosses take the chairs. By the 1950s or 1960s, the first major crisis arrives. An Irish captain with union strength, police contacts, and hundreds of loyal men demands a seat, or at least a voice, through a family boss. The old Italians refuse full equality. The younger earners push back. A quiet internal race war inside the mafia becomes possible, not between neighbourhoods on the street, but inside the command structure itself. If the bosses handle it smartly, the mafia becomes stronger than real history. Irish crews bring political access, dock control, bar culture, police friendships, and neighbourhood soldiers who can move in places Italians cannot. The families become less predictable. Law enforcement can no longer describe the mafia as mainly Italian. Witnesses become harder to classify. The public image changes from Italian organised crime to a broader American criminal syndicate with Italian roots. If the bosses handle it badly, the mafia splits earlier. Irish captains get tired of being second-class made men. Italian traditionalists treat them as useful outsiders even after initiation. Mixed crews start choosing leaders by money and loyalty rather than old rules. By the time RICO pressure arrives decades later, prosecutors find a massive organisation already weakened by internal resentment. The same inclusion that made the mafia richer also makes it more unstable. John Gotti's era looks different in this timeline. A boss like Gotti would love the street theatre of Irish loyalty if it served him. He would have Irish captains at the Ravenite, Irish union men backing Gambino construction interests, and Hell's Kitchen shooters connected to Brooklyn crews. But the old guard would see danger in that image. Gotti already drew too much attention in real history. Add Irish-made men, mixed crews, and a broader public following, and the Gambino family becomes even louder, even faster. Sammy Gravano would also have more tools. Instead of only managing Italian captains and associates, he could use official Irish crews as part of Gambino enforcement and labour pressure. A De Meo-connected crew could work beside Irish dockmen without the usual distance between family members and outsiders. That makes the street machines stronger in the short term. It also gives prosecutors a wider witness pool once pressure begins. The final shape is this. If the Irish were allowed to join the Italian mafia, the American mob becomes richer, wider, and more politically connected. The five families turn into hybrid criminal governments with Italian bosses, Irish captains, mixed crews, and deeper control over unions, docks, bars, trucking, and police-connected neighbourhoods. The old Irish gangs lose independence, but their best men gain rank. The Italian mafia loses purity, but gains reach. And then the price arrives. A bigger mafia creates bigger cases. More members mean more rivalries, more informants, more wires, more family disputes, and more men who feel cheated by the chair above them. The Irish do not destroy the mafia from outside in this timeline. They enter it, strengthen it, reshape it, and eventually help create the cracks that federal prosecutors use to bring the whole thing down.